Iceberg, right ahead!
Iceberg, right ahead!
On the starboard! Starboard!
The wreck of the Titanic is in danger of collapsing from bacteria and corrosion, but also from visitors. Going there is also a danger to the visitors themselves. The tragic loss of the OceanGate submersible follows a long line of close calls. The loss of the submersible Titan during its expedition to the Titanic has raised questions about the vessel's safety, but Titan is only the latest craft to find itself in peril at the site of one of the world's most famous shipwrecks. Of the 10 submersibles in the world that can reach depth of 4,000 meters or greater, the Titan, owned by exploration company OceanGate Expeditions, was the only one that wasn't certified by any regulatory body, and OceanGate had been warned by both industry experts and one of its own senior employees that the vessel might be unsafe. Still, no matter how reliable the vehicle, diving to such extreme ocean depth is always risky. At least 3 previous expeditions to the Titanic had close calls that could have cost the crews their lives. An advisor to the team that rediscovered the Titanic in 1985, Canadian undersea physician Dr. Joe McInnes had already participated in several dives to the site by the time he co-led a joint Canadian-Russian-American expedition there in 1991. In addition to undertaking biological and geological studies of the sunken ship, the group planned to capture the wreckage of the Titanic on IMAX film. Their footage became the basis of the 1995 documentary Titanica. 2 Russian Mir submersibles made 17 dives over the course of the expedition, and on the last one, they hit a literal snag. McInnes' submersible had set down in the wheelhouse at the very spot where Captain Edward Smith may have stood when the Titanic sank beneath the waves. When the crew finished filming and tried to lift off the platform, they realized they were caught on something. After a moment of panic and shock, they remembered that they had a second submersible, so they called in the second Mir for assistance. The pilot of that second vessel was able to see that their left landing skid had slipped under a mass of wires, possibly phone cables that had once led into the wheelhouse of the Titanic, and the second Mir was able to give them directions on how to maneuver their way out of the tangle. In an interview with Times Radio, McInnes said, "We had that second pilot, that second sub, self-rescue capability. So we were very fortunate." The Russian Mir submersibles were the size of a cement mixer, and they were hoisted from a supply ship into the water on a winch, so different from the OceanGate Titan, which was pulled behind a boat and then just released into the water. So, another film shoot at the shipwreck led to a near-death experience for director James Cameron. Cameron made several trips down to the wreckage in fall of 1995 while filming for his 1997 blockbuster Titanic. And he was on his 3rd dive with the submersible pilot Dr. Anatoly Zagalovich and a Russian engineer when they encountered an unexpected sandstorm on the ocean floor. As Cameron recalls in the 2009 biography The Futurist by author Rebecca Keegan, Anatoly said, "Oh no, something you never want to hear a pilot say, and we locked eyes for a second." Fighting against the strong currents had sapped the submersible's power supply, and they were almost out of batteries. Immediately, they aborted the dive, but at 25 meters above the seabed, it was as though they had hit a ceiling. The submersible stopped rising and sank back to the ocean floor. They sat for half an hour in total darkness and near freezing temperatures to give their battery a rest before trying again, only to be stopped for a second time at 25 meters. Unbeknownst to them, they were caught in a downdraft caused by the flow of the current over the shipwreck of the Titanic. In a stroke of good luck, however, each time the stream pushed them back down it, also blew them a bit further away from the Titanic. On their third attempt, they held their breath when they hit 25 meters, but continued to rise, breaking the surface 5 hours later. Another expedition became almost a victim of these treacherous currents. Michael Guyan, despite his fear of water, couldn't pass up the opportunity to be the first reporter in 88 years to visit the Titanic when he was invited to dive there in 2000. Submersible pilot Viktor Nishetka took Guyan and his dive partner in a 1-hour tour of the wreckage. But as the submersible crossed the debris field between the ship's front section and the stern, Guyan realized they were speeding up. Like Cameron's crew, they were caught in one of the deep sea's unpredictable currents.
It was in September of 2000, and I had been invited to be the first television correspondent to go down and report from the Titanic. I didn't want to, honestly, Aaron, because I have a fear of water. I've never even learned how to swim. And so my instinct was, oh gosh, of all things, no. But of course, that was my job, and I did it. Everything went well. Went down 2.5 hours, prayed at the bow of the ship for the people who lost their lives there. And then as we headed to the stern, we got caught up in an underwater current that smashed us into the propeller, giant propeller, much bigger than our own sub. And we got somehow caught behind the blades. So we were caught between if you can imagine, between the body of the Titanic and these blades. And at that moment, when I felt the collision and then huge chunks of rusted metal from the Titanic just rained down on us, I knew, wow, this is not a minor oopsie. This is a life-threatening situation. It was terrifying, probably the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I've been to the North Pole, the South Pole. I've been in war zones, but that rates right on top. Scary.
Do you feel like the whole world is kind of closing in on you? What's it like to be stuck in such a small place, I guess, facing your own mortality? And do you interact with other people? I'm just trying to get a sense of what that would have been like.
Interesting. When I first got inside, before they closed the hatch, I thought, oh, Lordy, not only do I have a fear of water, but this is a real tight quarters. It's a 3-man sub. So it was me, my diving buddy, entirely spent the entire journey on our bellies on benches that had a little thin mattress, looking out an 8-inch porthole. Our pilot was in the middle, kind of sitting up. He had a big cockpit area and a much larger porthole. But when you get in there and you get locked into that thing, and then you start descending and you lose sunlight almost immediately, first 400 feet and it goes lights out. And the interior of the sub starts sweating because the water is so cold in the North Atlantic that whatever humidity is in the cabin starts condensing as rain, as it were. So you really, very quickly, you get this sense of, oh my gosh, I'm inside this little tin can. And when we had that accident, it felt as if I were buried alive under 2.5 miles of water, if you can imagine that. Imagine having 2.5 miles of water above you. And as I was trying to think of a way out, I realized, no, this is not like your car is stuck in the mud and you can call the towing service and they can tow you out. There's nobody around there. The North Atlantic is like in the middle of nowhere, period. And it's not like somebody can just yank you out of there. You're stuck behind these propeller blades and it's messy.
After almost an hour in tense silence, there was a sudden change in the way Mir felt under their feet. The growling of the engine ceased and the submersible felt weightless again. Okay? Julian asked tentatively. Nisheta grinned, no problem. One of the 5 men who died in the Titan submersible, Paul-Henri Narguillet, he's a French deep-sea explorer. He wrote in 2005 in an open letter to the Titanic shipwreck discoverer Bob Ballard. From my 11-year experience diving on Titanic, I can assure you that the ocean floor around that wreck is not a quiet place. Often it is more like a dishwasher. Between erratic currents, a total lack of warmth and daylight, and the rusting hulk of the ship itself, whose ruptured hull and snapped cables reach out into the darkness to snare passing watercraft, diving to the Titanic is always a dangerous proposition. In the months to come, there will be, no doubt, an investigation into what went wrong on Titan. But though we can mitigate the risks, it will never be completely safe in our lifetimes to visit the deep ocean, one of the few places on Earth utterly inhospitable to human life. So guys, if you like this video, check out my other Titan Submersible videos, and also check out my channel. There's lots of other videos, and just check it out. I would love to see you in my next video, and it would help me a lot if you could subscribe, click the notification bell, and thanks for watching. See you soon.